Welcome, Power fans. We are back to cover episode 3 of Power Ghost Human Capital. So, a lot going on in this episode, as we see with every single episode. Before I begin, if you like the content, please subscribe and like. We'll be covering Power Season 3 all throughout the season. So, we try and get these episodes to you not too long after midnight. So, if you're one of those people that stays up late to watch Power, we're trying to have these recaps to you right after the show goes off the air. But enough of that. Let's get right to the show. So, starting off with the title, Human Capital. In the capitalist society, we already knows what that means. Either you're being exploited or you're the one being exploited. Or number three, you're being delusional and thinking you're not an exploiter, which we see a little bit in the classroom dynamic with Tariq's class. But before going to that, we have to look at what's going on business wise. Apparently, everything is booming. If we look at the beginning of the episode, everybody's moving product. Everything seems to be flowing smoothly unless you're Lorenzo. If you're Lorenzo, you're still getting a lot of payback from Kane. You're getting beat up before you get your weight to push. You're completely neutered. You don't have anything good going for yourself, or so it seems. I want you guys to pay attention to the dynamic now that Kane is in the driver's seat. He's slowly learning that you can't solve everything behind the barrel of a gun. To be a leader, especially a leader of an organized crime agency or organized crime group, excuse me, you have to be able to have diplomacy. You have to be able to manage personalities. You have to be able to know when to threaten and also when to be diplomatic and when to pull back. And that's something he's never grasped in all his years in the game. Everything he's been able to solve has been through force. And the quickest example of that is how we see him interact with Uncle Frank's sons, the Castillo brothers. So Kane is the one that comes up with this great idea. If we want to get the Castillos in Brooklyn under our thumb, we should kill their connect, their Russian connect. First mistake he makes there is he sends a complete novice and Braden to do the hit, which is very dangerous because obviously things can go awry, which is exactly what happened. And luckily, Tariq was there to save the day. But now we're compounded with another problem because the Russians saw their leader get killed by somebody black. So, of course, if the Russians come back in the picture, which I think they will, they're going to automatically assume the person who took over our connect or the person or the group, the Castillos who are going to our new connect, they have to be the ones responsible for the killing. So that's putting Kane right under the barrel right there with the Russians. So that's something to keep an eye on. But really, what I want you to pay attention to is look at what happened when Kane was trying to negotiate with the Castillo brothers. He was completely out of his depth. You know, he had his one ace card, like, oh, I don't know what happened to your connect. I heard it was a black guy. And then when that was refuted, he didn't know what to say. The deal nearly collapsed at that very moment. It was Lorenzo that stepped in and he appealed to the family ties that they used to have. He sat there and told Gordo, look, we used to be family. You know, we need to be a united unit. If we're united, we're unstoppable. And that completely flipped everything. That completely saved the deal right then and there. You know, Drew couldn't do it, Kane couldn't do it. It's still Lorenzo. And he's still showing at this point why they're not ready to lead. And you see the look on Kane's face right here. He had to concede. He had to concede that, you know, my father still has the juice and he's still needed on the team. And here's what I want you to pay attention to. After that happened, you see Kane almost threw like a little fit. It was almost childish in a way. He was trying to reassert his authority, and he said, "Well, you're going to go move some more weight for me now." After that little stump, you know, you laid it on too thick. Now look at Lorenzo's reaction. You see he's smiling and damn near laughing because I think he realizes it's only a matter of time before Kane completely screws this up, and either I'm going to have to save the day or I'm going to be able to take back over. He knows Kane is not built for this role. Everybody's not meant to be a leader. It's as simple as that. But I will give Kane this. I think he knows deep down he can't do things on his own. And that is why he's trying so hard to get with Effie. I mean, number one, it's Effie. See how fine she is. But besides that, Effie is the one that handles business. She knows how to be covert. She knows how to be independent. And she's exactly the right-hand man you want on your team if you're trying to build an empire. And of course, we know he's attracted to her too. But all that put together makes her the perfect second in command, you know, for a crime enterprise. The problem that Kane is going to run into is Effie thinks higher of herself. She doesn't want to be a second in command. You see that even with the Tariq dynamic. She feels that she can manage things completely on her own. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But I already see the window or the walls are kind of crumbling already with Kane before he even gets started. He's just not built for this role. Now, speaking of not built for this role, let's go right to his brother, Drew. We see he's just wallowing in grief. He's one night stand after one night stand, still stalking Everett's social media. He has it bad. We've all been there with bad breakups, stalking exes, burner accounts, and all that. And he's completely unfocused right now. If Kane can see it that you're unfocused, you know how bad things are. So he has good ideas, but his execution is not there because he's not focused on what he needs to get focused on. And things are going to get a lot more complicated with him because you notice he's on this grinder app looking for new partners. And he notices this person that he has a crush on has a unique tattoo. And I don't know if you guys caught that same tattoo is the one that Gordo Castillo, Uncle Frank's son, had. So that's pretty much the same thing. So now there's a covert thing that's going to eventually go on. We know they're going to hook up. Maybe Everett comes back and makes things messy, but that's already a mess up dynamic because where are your loyalties truly lying? Is it with your own family or is it going to be with the Castillos now? So that's going to make Drew even more of a loose cannon. So who is going to be stable in the Tejada family? Because Lorenzo, like I told you in the last recap, I feel he's going to be looking for someone to kind of lean on now that Kane has him under his thumb. And that person is going to be Diana. Because as we see with Diana, she loves her dad. She's always going to be, excuse me, be there for him. And we see that when he goes to her, when he has to move that extra weight. He basically tells her, baby, I wouldn't be putting you in this position if I didn't have to. But if we can move this covertly, it can work out for both of us. She loves her dad. She can't say no to him. She's back in the game. Here's something I want to have you keep your eye on. I've been repeating it since episode 1. I think this is going to lead to some type of dynamic with Lorenzo and Noma. Somehow she's going to notice him, maybe how efficiently he's moving things at standstill, but they're going to get together and I think they're going to hook up. We haven't really seen that many scenes with Lorenzo and Monet, surprisingly. I was thinking after Zeke's quote unquote murderer was taken out, that maybe that will bring them closer together, but they're pretty much staying completely apart. So that leaves a window for Lorenzo and Noma to possibly hook up. And that can be Lorenzo's way of getting Kane out of the picture. Because now I feel like Kane is kind of really in danger now, not just from Lorenzo. Keep in mind the Russians. The Russians saw it was somebody black that took out that leader. They're going to be looking at Kane as the main suspect, in my opinion. So going back to Diana really quick, I got to commend Diana and Effie when they had this argument. I felt like this was the best or most positive argument I've seen on this series. They were very respectful of each other. Of course, they had grievances to lay out, but they never crossed the line. Effie called her immediately and asked her, "Is this going to be about Tariq? If it is, I'm not fighting over no dude." Diana said the same thing. This is not about Tariq. This is really about you guys lying to me when you see me kind of struggling like this, trying to make it on my own. And Effie really flipped it. She was like, "Yo, you're smart. You know how to handle business. You should join the team." I'm pretty sure she would love to have another woman on the team that she can trust. But it feels like Diana's trust is a little bit broken. And I speculated in the last episode when she kind of left and watched them from the back at the candy store. I kind of felt that she didn't like being in a subservient position to Tariq and Effie. And I feel like there's still pride there. And that's why she doesn't want to join the team and just be kind of a cog in the machine. She has that independent streak that Effie has to a degree. So they're not on the best of terms right now, but they're not beefing either. So I really like kind of the way that argument went. It didn't get out of line. They didn't end up fighting, and they're not at odds now, but it might happen in the future just based on her moving weight there. So we'll see how that goes. Uh, next thing I wanted you guys to look at would be the character of RSJ, the richest black man in America. That's already a great tagline. The first thing I thought when I saw him is, look at Chris Partlow. He's made it. He's got out of prison and he's reformed his life. But that's only for you Wire fans who recognize the actor. But he's somebody that I can see really refining Tariq. He already left a gem with him about how to maximize your business, not always looking for the big spenders, but knowing that a boatload of smaller, cheaper spenders can actually uplift your business if you get enough of them and if you market mainstream enough to drag them in. And surprise, surprise, they get the big idea to move weight through coffee. Was it no cap, no frat? Very nice. Um, Almost completely unbelievable how they're doing this with cryptocurrency, but hey, it's power. We know how it works. You got to move all this weight. Everybody drinks coffee on Wall Street, so we're going to roll with it. So for now, everything is going in place with this, but we already see some kind of fissures going on already. The main one is the fact that how did Tariq even get in this position? It's because Braden, through back channels, had him lose his internship. And unfortunately for Braden, he made the mistake of trusting Tate to keep it secret. Tate kept it a secret until the cops came along, and he told the cops immediately. I told Braden, and Braden is the one that got him up at Weston Holdings. So now the cops are going to be snooping around up there, which is very, very dangerous, and that's going to be a huge issue when you tie that into what can potentially happen with the RICO. And let me go back to Tate a little bit. Tate is one of those guys that you love to hate, complete straight politician, can't trust them, but he does have a soft spot, and the soft spot is his college sweetheart, who has come back into the picture now. She's Tariq's teacher, and what we find out is that she was the last woman that he was in love with, and apparently broke his heart. And then after all that happened, he just wouldn't focus completely on his career. So now that she's back, there's a possibility that we have that Harper is her name, excuse me, that this will be the person that can bring some humanity back into Tate, that can be his moral compass, so to speak. But maybe that's being a little too optimistic because you remember after she left, when the cops came, one of the cops mentioned, I think it was Blanca, she said, Harper's completely out of your league. And did you catch what Tate said? He said, well, I love a challenge. So if he's still looking at her like a challenge, that's still a scumbag at heart. He's almost never going to change. But we'll see. I think she can temper him a little bit. But at this point, after decades of being in the political game like this, I feel like Tate is who he is. So we'll see where that develops. Next, let's go to Monet. One thing about Monet, she hasn't smiled once this season. Her manner of speaking to people, I don't know how people put up with her. I feel like Davis is going to be reaching his boiling point at some stature in the in the season. Monet just won't let up. She has no affection for anyone, and now she's under complete stress because Whitman is on her tail. He knows that she's behind Carrie Milgram's murder, and she's leaving bodies out in the street. Everybody that comes by that bar doesn't make it out, and he has her under complete surveillance, and he wants her bad. Now, on the flip side, she does have Davis on her side, so she's been filing legal harassment, got him taken off of the RICO case with Blanca and Jenny. So that's going to help a little bit, but Whitman's not going anywhere. So it's either going to be her or him at some point. So I don't think Monet's checking out anytime soon. So Whitman might be in danger because I can see Monet putting a bullet in him. She's already at her wit's end. Davis is trying to keep her under control, but nobody can really control Monet. And we still have the big bombshell. At some point, she's going to find out that the GTG killer was not the one that killed Zeke. And then she's really going to go off the rails. So we'll see where that develops. As of right now, it's just a little bit of harassment, but I don't see it stopping anytime soon. I think we got at least maybe 2 more episodes of this going on. Now, one thing that kind of threw me for a loop, talking about Davis, his whole situation with Sax and looking at Davis's brother Theo. Do you recognize that Theo? From what I remember, I thought it was supposed to be Redman. So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm like, who is this guy? I don't recall ever seeing him before. But I'm going to assume that they just replaced Redman. Maybe Red was too busy doing something. Shout out to Jersey, where I'm from. But anyway, this new Theo confirmed for Sax that basically he took the fall for his brother Davis. So now Sax has something over top of Davis's head. Not to mention, remember, he took that photo confirming that Monet, Tariq, and Davis have a relationship. You tie that all into the RICO with Jenny, she really has a strong case because at that point, if she brings it to a RICO trial, there's no way for Davis to defend either of them because it's a conflict of interest at that point. He might even be tied up into Rico, depending on how things go. So Saxe has something very big, but at the same time, we see for the first time with Saxe in a while, he's having a conflict of his conscience, so to speak, because he knows Theo is innocent, and he did agree with Davis that he's going to help to get him out. So at some point, he's going to have to make a decision whether to give up Davis and potentially have Saxe remain. I mean, give up Davis and potentially have Theo remain in prison, or give everything over to Jenny, get her love, and get her in the bed as much as he wants. But at the same time, an innocent man is going to rot in prison. So what decision is Saxe going to make? I'm leaning towards he's going to stick with Davis and get Theo out, but we'll see. I think he kind of deep down realizes Jenny really doesn't care for him whatsoever. He's just a tool at this point, and that's all he's going to be to her. And at some point, his male ego is going to kick in, where none of us really wants to be just used like that. So I think he's going to blow up Jenny's Rico down to the wire. She's going to get everything in place, and he's just going to destroy her. She's going to push a little bit too far, and he's going to just yank the carpet out from under her, and that's going to be an end of her Rico. Uh, I think that about covers everybody. We didn't see Lauren this episode, so we're going to see what's up with her probably next episode. Braden is on borrowed time as far as when Tariq is going to find out about this whole deception with him getting his intern taken away and taking him to Weston. We'll see what's going to happen with this RSJ character. I see him maturing and developing Tariq as we go along. I'm not sure if he's going to be cool with all this drug pushing that Tariq is doing. We'll find out if RSJ is really dirty, which will kind of suck a little bit. The richest black man in America having criminal tendencies. But at the same time, you know what they say, to be that rich, you got to step on a lot of people. So it would kind of make sense if he is one of those type of figures. One other thing to keep an eye on, I would say, is when is the secret going to come out that Kane has this over Lorenzo? You know, already Drew is kind of, he knows something is up. He says that basically to both of them. So he might start snooping. And then Diana is already not cool with it either. She might start snooping as well. And when they do find out the truth, who are they going to side with? I know Diana's going to roll with her pops, especially if he gives her that sob story that it was an accident, which it was, but we shall see. Drew is still a little bit too all over the place. I think he's going to be stuck with the new lover storyline. So I don't see him really being the one to uncover it. I'm leaning more towards Diana being the one. And you know, the ironic thing is, out of all the children, to hide the children, Diana is probably the one that would be the best leader. You know, she has empathy, she has smarts, she's very reserved, she's not impulsive, and she's focused. She doesn't really have anything going on that can really distract her. Only thing kind of missing from her would be the mean streak, you know, knowing when to use force, you know, and having muscle and knowing when to really have, you know, when you have to put in work. At some point you have to retain power in this business. And that's that one thing I'm not sure that she'll be able to do. Now, speaking of Diana, I just forgot about one thing, you know, what Kane called him, what the Holy Hotep, you know, her good brother, Salim, seems like a great guy so far, almost seems kind of like not even a real character, almost like a stock stereotype, the way he's portrayed. Some people I've seen speculate because of the way he acts that maybe he's undercover, maybe he's a cop. Normally, power gives you some type of hint of that type of behavior, and we haven't seen anything like that to indicate that he's not who he says he is. I know we haven't seen them at home or anything, but I'm not getting those vibes. And if they did go that route, it would be kind of cheap without even getting like a little bit of a hint so far. So one thing I wanted to mention in particular about Effie and Tariq's conversation while at the dinner table concerns what Tariq said about what he feels is going to be the future for him and Effie. So number one, he compared their relationship to his father and his mother, saying that we can have a relationship just like that, but better, because my mother was the mastermind behind everything, which is funny. And I'm smarter than my father. So with us united, we can have the same type of thing. But he mentioned an actual movie that you guys might not be aware of. I'm showing my age, but the name of the movie is a blaxploitation film named Thomasine and Bushrod. Now, what is this movie about? It's a Western, and essentially, Thomasine, she plays a bounty hunter. Bushrod, I believe he was a gunslinger, and basically they're like Robin Hood figures. They're robbing the establishment, um, racist, and bringing it back to the poor people in the land and trying to liberate them to a degree, but still kind of anti-heroes. But what happened in that movie at the end? Both of them died. So it feels like Tariq is already kind of dooming them without realizing it because there's power in the tongue. So I urge everybody to check out that movie when you have some free time and compare it to the dynamic that you see with Tariq and Effie at this current point. There's already, too many secrets that she's holding from him, and then that's going to compound and possibly destroy their relationship going forward because Tariq is still the naive one, has no idea. And eventually, when he realizes Lauren is alive, which may not happen until they're in the courtroom with that Rico, is going to be something else. But as much as Tariq is trying to run away from his destiny, which is basically mimicking the mistakes that his father made by going deeper and deeper into the game, his fate is pretty much sealed. So let me know what you guys think about that. Also, let's touch on what happened before Tariq met RSJ at that big summit meeting. You notice that their Uncle Lucas, almost forgot his name, Uncle Lucas and Kiki is kind of realizing her stature in the pecking order is not what it used to be. Because as soon as she hits that corner and she sees Braden and Tariq there, she knows as a woman she's out of place. And what does she say to Lucas? She says, "Oh, you just had to have any black face here, and that was, sufficient." And she realizes no matter how much skin she's put in the game, she's going to be an outsider. And then as a woman, she really almost has no chance. So here's what I want you to pay attention to, right? She is sleeping with Braden. So pillow talk is going to happen. She's going to bring up her grievances to him at some point and how she's being pushed out of perhaps another big opportunity with the firm. How is Braden going to react? Is he going to side with his boy Tariq, or is he going to side with his new girl Kiki? No men are weak for women. He's going to side with Kiki, I'm pretty much sure. And that's going to further, I think, damage the relationship that he has with Tariq. It's not damaged now, but the damage is going to start when he realizes what happened with his internship being taken away from him because of Braden. And then it's going to get compounded by whatever he does with Kiki behind his back. So pay attention to that. That's going to blow up at some point before the season is over with. Let me know what you think about this episode, Human Capital, your favorite characters, anything that didn't make sense to you. And we'll be back talking about episode 4 next week, sometime after midnight, hopefully before 2 a.m. Thank you for tuning in, and like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and we'll see you guys next week.